So for today, you need a wall because we're going to work on legs on the wall. We're going to relax with legs on the wall. You want a chair or a footstool, something that's kind of regular chair height. You want your Coregeous ball, you want your yoga tune-up balls, you want a yoga strap or belt or non-stretchy scarf. And as always, you want a blankie. And if you have an eye pillow is always lovely when we come to the constructive rest at the end. And so, especially for people who typically don't like legs up the wall, we're going to make it as lovely and supportive as possible. So if you have tight hamstrings and tight hips and you don't generally like this position, we're going to make it totally work for you. So that's where we're going to start. And the key to making legs up the wall be awesome is that you don't need to put your butt all the way up against the wall, right? You can position yourself with your butt far enough away from the wall that your legs are straight, your heels are supported, and your pelvis and your back are just relaxed and weighted down onto the floor. So set yourself up as far away or as close to the wall as makes sense for you. And if you get yourself all set up and it doesn't feel good or it doesn't feel sustainable or tolerable or useful, then shimmy a little farther away from the wall. If it feels like you've gone so far away from the wall that your legs are going to fall down onto the floor, then bring your butt a little closer to the wall. Take with you whatever you need or want to support your head. So if you like to have a half dome or a rolled up cushion or a towel or something behind or a cushion or a rolled up towel behind your head, take that. And take your blankie if you're in a cooler space. And we're going to start here. And we're going to start here for about 5 minutes. So get yourself all nicely set up. And once you have your legs up on the wall and you've got your heels resting on the wall and your legs are straight, let your legs totally relax. So if you work at it, you can kind of keep your legs aligned and oriented back into towards the room. Let your legs relax. They'll probably turn out a little bit. So you want them to be straight up, like hip distance apart, but you can let them turn out in that straight up the wall position. Grab your blankie, bring your blankie over your chest and shoulders and your belly. Support your head, and then just let yourself start to check in. And this is where we're going to do our initial body scan. So start with the back of your head and feel the weight of the back of your head on the floor or on your cushion or towel or half dome, whatever you have behind you. Check in with your neck and check in for unneeded, unnecessary tension in your neck. And then relax your face. I don't know about you, but I hold an inordinate amount of unconscious tension in my face a lot of the time. So check in and see if you can relax your eyes and your eyebrows and your cheeks and your jaw and your tongue and your scalp, right? Are you kind of tensing up around your ears and your scalp? Can you relax that? Feel for the weight of the backs of your shoulders and the space in between your shoulder blades and your shoulder blades on the floor. And then bring your attention further down towards the bottoms of your ribs, which may be on the floor or they might not, but just give them a little, kind of a little imaginary hug. Feel for the weight of the front of your body. So the weight of your collarbones, the weight of your sternum and your ribs as they are on the top of you with the hug of gravity and the hug maybe of your blanket on the top. Bring your attention down to your belly and relax your belly as best you can. Relax your back as best you can. Feel the weight of your glutes resting on the floor and the weight of your belly and your pelvis kind of resting on amidst your pelvic basin. Relax your pelvic floor if you can. And then normally you have your legs on the ground and you can feel the weight of your legs on the ground. But now, because you have your legs up on the wall, instead, the next thing to pay attention to is the weight of your legs dropping down into your hip sockets. See if you can ask your hip flexors and your thighs to relax and ease and fold and yield into that folded position. And do you feel your hamstrings? Do you feel any stretch in your hamstrings? So hopefully you're somewhere, if you're a person who feels sensations of stretch and work in your body, you're not at much more than maybe a 2 out of 10. If you're feeling quite a lot of stretch in the backs of your legs, I'm going to suggest you scooch just a bit farther away from the wall. Likewise, if you open your eyes, if you have your eyes closed and you look at your legs and your knees are bent, I'm going to suggest you scooch a little farther away from the wall. As you travel your attention from your hip flexors and your quads and your hamstrings down towards your knees, see if you can explore letting your legs be relaxed in a straight position. And then there's probably not a lot of awareness you can bring to your calves and your shins. They're just there in space. They're not really doing much of anything. And then feel the weight of your feet and your heels on the wall. And then shift your attention back to where your legs meet your hip sockets. And this is not anatomically true, but imagine that your hip sockets were like really beautifully rounded goblets with olive oil in them, warm olive oil, and that your leg bones are dropping smoothly and heavily and easily, perfectly fitting into those hip socket goblets, so that the shape of the top of your leg bone is perfectly matched to the shape of the inside of the goblet or bowl. And really focus on gravity helping your leg bones to deepen their connection into your hip sockets. And then as you do that, also think about the back of your pelvis on the floor. And think of the back of your pelvis getting wider as the weight of your legs dropping into your hip sockets gently pressures and eases your pelvis a little bit wider, as though you were using your hands to press down into dough and feeling it widen on the counter. And then go back a little bit higher to your pelvic floor and your lower abdominal muscles. And again, just check in for unneeded, unnecessary tension. What can you shed from your day, especially if you've had a stressful day? What can you let go of? What is your body so helpfully holding on to for you that you could let go? And just remind your brain that, as helpful as your nervous system is trying to be, you don't actually have to hold on to that clench, that tension, that bracing. You're fully held by the floor and you're fully held by the wall. And then place your hands across your lower belly, under your blankie if you have a blankie, so that you stay nice and warm if you like. And we're going to breathe just through your nose. So you're both inhaling and exhaling through your nose, as long as that feels okay for you. And as you inhale, allow your lower belly to expand as you breathe in. Don't make it expand, just let it expand. And then as you exhale, let it soften and drape and slide back in towards your spine. Breathe at your own pace. And this is a place where you could explore that sense of kind of sipping your breath. So you don't need to force anything. You don't need to take a deep breath. Just breathe in as much as your system would like to breathe in, and as much as your system would like to breathe out. One more breath. And let it all go. And then shift your attention to your ribs and your chest, and the place where your ribs meet up with your sternum at the front and where they meet up with your spine at the back. And again, just breathing through your nose as long as that feels okay for you, and only taking a depth of breath that feels unstrained and unstressful. As you inhale, think of those joints at your sternum and your spine widening and opening. And think of your ribs softening and expanding out to the sides and down into the floor and up towards the ceiling to create space, easy, fluid space for the inhale. And then they relax and they soften back down into their starting position on the exhale. And certainly you could feel your belly kind of going along for the ride. But your brain, your focus, the picture that you're creating in your mind is about the movement of your rib cage. And again, take 4 or 5 breaths at your own pace. And when you've completed your next breath, it's time to come away from the wall. And I think the easiest way to do this is to bend your knees in towards your chest, kind of slide your feet down the wall, and then roll to one side so that you kind of clear your knees and your pelvis away from the wall. And grab your gorgeous ball, your squishy ball. And have a seat. So there's very little sensation to this because this is not a high sensation class, but put the gorgeous ball behind the back of one leg. Just do a slow roll up to your glutes and down towards your knee. And keep rolling slowly up from the top of your hamstrings down to the back of your knee. And then start to slowly slide your legs side to side. You can kind of turn in and turn out, make a bit of a figure eight so that the ball is traveling from the inside to the outside of the back of your leg. And pick 2 or 3 different spots. So one kind of at the top of the back of your leg, one in the middle of your hamstrings, and one just above your knee. And 3 or 4 or 5, depending on your pacing, rolls back and forth across the back of your leg. And then when you've done that sort of 3 or 4 back and forth from side to side, shift over and do the same thing on the other leg. So up and down from the back of your hip to the back of your knee, nice and slow. Really feel the weight of your leg resting down onto the ball. Nice. Couple more rolls up and down. Beautiful. And then a little side to side, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times in each of 3 spots, just above your knee, middle of your hamstrings, and just below your hip. Nice. Okay. So from there, let's flip around and put the ball under the front of your hip on the right. So you have choices. You can bring the ball under your right hip and let your left hip lie on the floor so that you are rotated. You can bring your left knee out to the side so that you're a little bit more stable or level. Or you can put something else under your left hip, yoga block, bolster, half dome, cushion, towel, so that you have the kind of the soft, squishy, movable ball under the right hip and something that keeps you level but doesn't move under your left hip. So whichever you prefer, you can get that set up. And initially, just hang out there and focus again on that connection of your leg to your hip socket. And in this position, see if there's any excess tension that you can release, that you can relax, that you can let go of. And then start to just move. So there's no particular pattern to this, just start to shift. So you could be easing left to right. So you're staying on your right hip, but you could be easing to the left side and the right side of your right hip. You could push your toes into the floor and roll up and down. So you go a little bit towards your belly and a little towards your leg. Just shift, just move around so that you're getting a different, so that the places that are being affected by, hugged by the ball are shifting and changing. And then shift over and do the same thing on the other side. Again, you could have your pelvis tipped and both legs straight. You can bring your right leg out to the side, or you can put something else under your right hip so that you are balanced from side to side, more or less balanced from side to side, but really feel the centering of the squishy ball kind of directly in the middle of the ball. The middle of the ball is directly over the crease between your pelvis and your leg. And you hang out and you breathe. And you relax. And you search for hidden crevices of extra tension that sneak in when you're not looking. And politely and gently ask them to vacate the premises. And then start to move. A little left, right, maybe a little up, down. See how it feels on this side compared to the other side, because it's never the same from side to side. And then come on back to center and lose the ball. And if you put something under your pelvis, you can put that aside. And now it's time to grab your chair or position yourself so that you can put your heels on your sofa or a stool or something that's nice and stable. So not a stability ball. And we're going to do a lower version of legs on the wall. So same thing, make sure you have whatever you might want to support your head. Have your blanket with you. You want your legs to be long and straight and your heels to be supported on your chair. And so if you want to have your blanket, you can totally have your blanket on you because cozy is good. But this time, don't put your hands under the blanket because we're going to add a little bit of arm and shoulder movement. So you're going to put your fingertips on your shoulders and you're going to circle your arms in a nice, small, easy, fluid circle. So you're looking for whatever range feels good to you. If you've got shoulder stuff, this might be a very small circle. If you have no shoulder restrictions, you can be coming all the way down towards the floor. And as you're doing this, you still want to keep your legs relaxed and heavy and draping down, supported by your heels on the chair, supported by your pelvis on the floor. If you are hypermobile and your backs of your knees are not loving this, and it feels like the backs of your knees are hyperextending, you could pause with your arm circles and grab something to bolster the back of your legs. So an actual bolster would work for this. Yoga blocks, your gorgeous ball, a couple of rolled up cushions or towels just kind of tucked under the backs of your upper hamstrings so that there's a little bit more support for your upper legs, often takes the pressure off your knees. Change directions with your arms if you are still just hanging out circling. I was doing this series with a client this week, and she said, this is like the most warm, loving hug I could give to my body that I can possibly imagine. I was just like, oh, that's beautiful. All right. Change directions with your circles again. And now, if it's appropriate for your arms and shoulders, go for a full circle. So extend your arms out to your sides and overhead, and then cross your arms as they travel over your body. Last one. And then change directions. One more circle. And then let your arms relax. And bring your legs off the chair. Or swivel yourself away from your sofa, whatever you're using to rest your ankles on. And grab your yoga strap and let's do some leg circles. So you want the yoga strap around your right foot. You're going to bring your left leg down heavy on the floor. And I always think it's a good idea to do a little wrap of your strap around your hands so that you can really take the weight of your leg with your hands and your arms and the strap. It's harder to do if you're kind of holding on to this, just holding on to the ends of the strap. So we're going to start with just sliding your leg down towards the floor and up towards the ceiling, staying in a range of stretch that feels good to you, and then really kind of straightening your elbows to let the weight of your leg drape down towards the floor, and then using your arms, bending your elbows, pulling on the strap to pull your leg back up again. The key to this is to keep your leg as relaxed as you can. So that it really is your upper body in the strap, moving your soft, rested, easy leg in your hip socket with as little quad and hip flexor, right? So as little muscle work in the front of your leg as you can manage. And you can go to, again, sort of a, 2, 3, maybe a 4 out of 10 in terms of the amount of stretch you get in the back of your leg. We're not looking for big sensations in this experience. We're looking for things to be pretty quiet and benign. And then pause with your leg in the down position with your elbows straight. Turn your leg out in your hip socket and then pull up and slide down. Notice that your range might be less in the turned out position, or your sense of stretch might be more intense, and that's okay. Just continue to play around with this as being something that feels good and feels restful and helps your body and your brain to settle and calm and be quiet. So if there's so much sensation that it's uncomfortable for you, then I would back off and go back to the parallel version or make your range smaller, whatever works for you. On the next one, bring your leg up towards the ceiling. Bend your knee if you need to. If having your leg straight doesn't feel good, bend your knee. If you want to bend your knee a lot, bring your strap around the back of your knee and just let your shin hang down. And then we'll make circles. So you're thinking about your leg being heavy and deeply planted in your hip socket, still with that lovely warm olive oil helping it to glide into the bowl or the goblet of your hip socket. And whatever size of circle feels good to you, that is the size of circle that is perfect, that you want to do every time. And then change directions. Same thing, easy, heavy, smooth weight of your leg in your hip socket. Strong support from your arms, your hands, and the strap. And as little muscle work as you can possibly create in your leg. And when you've completed this next circle, pause, lose the strap, and let's stretch out your hands before we do the other side. So put the strap down, you'll need it again in a moment. Link your fingers, turn your palms up towards the ceiling, press your arms up towards the ceiling and spread your thumbs wide. So you don't have to fully extend your elbows if that doesn't feel good for you. Just get yourself a nice stretch through your fingers. And then release your hands and flip over so the other forefinger is in front, the one that doesn't feel right. And again, twist your hands so the palms are up towards the ceiling, thumbs spread wide. Notice that it's probably not the same. One hand is usually tighter than the other. And then release your hands and give them a little rub. And then retrieve your strap. Strap goes around your left foot this time. Right leg down heavy on the floor. And again, that little double wrap of the strap around the base of your hands so that it's easier to control the weight of your leg. And you want to, and also so that your band is short enough, your strap is short enough that you can let your arms straighten and your leg will not actually hit the floor. And then start to just slide up and down. Let your leg descend, straightening your elbows. And then use your arms to pull back up. And slide down. And pull back up. And your range might not be the same on this side as it was on the other side. So be mindful, pay attention, and notice if you're only going for that kind of 3, 4 out of 10 amount of stretch in the back of your leg, where is a good stopping spot on this side? On the next one, pause with your leg in the down position. Turn your leg out right from your hip socket. Keep that turn out as you slide up. And just like on the other side, you may find you have less range or more sense of stretch or more sense of restriction. So you play around with what works in the turned out position. And then let your leg come back to parallel and make leg circles. Still trying to keep the front of your leg, the front of your hip, the front of your thigh as relaxed as you can. So it's still this idea of stirring your leg in your hip socket by using the strength of the strap and your hands and your arms. And then change directions. Two more circles. And then come on back to center, lose the strap. And again, wiggle out your fingers, link your fingers, press your hands up towards the ceiling, spread your thumbs wide. And this time let's add a little slide. So reach your arms back towards your ears and forward towards your hips. And then pause, don't unlink your fingers, just untwist your hands And then shift over so the other forefinger is in front. Press your palms to the ceiling. Spread your thumbs wide. And slide your arms back. And slide your arms forward. One more time. And then untwist and release your hands. Move them around. Give them a little bit of a break. And then grab your yoga tune-up balls. So you can have your small, medium, whatever size you have handy. Grab one yoga tune-up ball and just kind of work around the outside of your sit bone. So the bony protruding part of the bottom of your pelvis, so your leg comes up here, your sit bone is at the bottom of your pelvis. So if you're not sure, sit, do a little rock back and forth, find the poking down parts of your pelvis, and then roll around there to the outside of that bone. Sometimes this is really innocuous. Sometimes it's full of sensation. So you move in ways that feel good to you. You can roll on the ball, right? So that the ball rolls on the floor, or you can keep the ball still as you shift back and forth on top of it. And your movement creates the pressure that moves the skin and the underlying fascia. Try a couple of different positions. And then other ball, same thing, other side. And if you don't have yoga tune-up balls, any tennis ball, dollar store ball will do. If you don't have any of those, you can actually just use your fist. Make a fist and just kind of roll your knuckles into your glutes. And then come on off there and set yourself up for your legs back up the wall again. So same setup as before. You want to make sure that you have your pelvis as close to or far from the wall as you need to be for your legs to be straight and relaxed, and not more than like a 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 in terms of stretch, and that your pelvis feels like it's just heavy and relaxed onto the floor and you've not rolled onto your lower back. You're really trying to think of those sit bones that you just rolled as being heavy and wide and kind of pointing towards the wall, not pointing up towards the backs of your knees. You may find that you can come closer to the wall than you did the first time. So play around a little bit with your position rather than assuming that you'll have to go back to the same place. You can certainly start in the same place and then see if you can just caterpillar butt walk your way closer to the wall. And once you get into that place, wherever that is for you this time, with your head supported and with your blanket in place so that you're warm and cozy, come back to that image of your leg bones dropping deep into your hip sockets. And see if that's any easier to achieve this time, or if it feels like you're getting a different degree of depth to your image of your leg sockets. And then take your hands and put your hands flat on your thighs, just below, like the very tops of your legs, just below your hips. And gently press your hands into your legs so you're pushing your legs towards the wall. As much or as little as feels good to you. So you're just tractioning your legs and your hip sockets a little teeny bit. If this doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. This isn't a requirement. If it feels great, carry on. And you're just putting this consistent amount of pressure. You're just holding this gentle press of your legs away from your hip sockets and towards the wall. And breathe. And then relax. Let your arms rest by your sides or on your belly or across your chest. And if you have space, so this isn't going to work for everybody, but if you have space to bring your legs out to the sides for an inner thigh stretch while your legs are up on the wall, go for it. Let your legs be turned out and just slide them out into a V shape. And as with everything else, we're not looking for really big, intense, wake you up sensations. So you don't need to go to a place where your inner thighs are like, hey, that's a 9 out of 10 position. You want to stay in that 3, 4, 5 max out of 10. And we've changed the angle for your hamstrings. We've added a little inner thigh. We've changed the orientation of your leg bone in your hip sockets. And if none of that is true for you because you don't have enough space to bring your legs wide on your particular kind of wall, don't worry about it. You're great. It's fine to just keep your legs straight up. That works too. And then do a little check-in with the back of your head and the weight of the back of your head. And check in with your face and see if there's any tension that has returned to any of your face muscles, and let that go. Say hi to your neck. Remind it that this is not a neck exercise. Your neck can relax. And feel the weight of your shoulders and your shoulder blades and your ribs on the floor. Feel the weight of your sternum and the front of your rib cage with the hug of gravity from above. Relax your belly and your back and your pelvic floor. Feel the weight of your glutes and the backs of your hips and your sacrum on the ground. Feel for the downward weight of your leg bones dropping into your hip sockets and off to the sides if you're in the V position. And the floaty, heavy at the same time weight of your legs and your feet resting on the wall. And then if you're in the V position, bring your legs back up to center. And just turn your legs in and out on the wall. Turn your legs out so that your thighs and your knees and your shins and your ankles and your toes point out. And then turn them in so that your thighs and your knees and your shins and your ankles and your toes are pointing in towards each other. And just rotate back and forth between those two positions. And then let your legs rest at center. And same strategy as before. Bend your knees, slide your feet down the wall. Maybe push yourself a little bit away from the wall. And then roll yourself over to one side or the other. Doesn't really matter which one. And then get yourself set up for your 5-minute constructive rest. So that could be in an official psoas release position where you have propped your head, your neck, and your shoulders up. You're letting your ribs drape down. So if you have not done this class with me before, this setup looks different for everybody. But the goal for the psoas release position is to let the place where your psoas starts be able to drape down towards the floor and to have a beautiful, consistent curve from the crown of your head, through your ears, through your neck, through your shoulders, through your upper spine. And so for some people, this is not high enough. So if you set yourself up and you feel like you're pulled in the back of your neck and that your jaw and your chin are pointing up towards the ceiling, then you're going to want to go a little higher. Extra cushion, extra pillow, extra support under your head so that you have that nice consistent curve. Your eyes are kind of towards the wall in front of you. Your nose is towards the wall in front of you. And your ribs are draping down towards the floor. If the temptation is to come up high, if the cushion or the bolster or whatever you're using is too low under your ribs, you're going to go too high at the front. So you want to be letting your rib cage, the bottom of your rib cage, soften down towards the floor. That's a whole lot of chat for the setup. You can also just lie on your back. You for sure want your blankie here. You for sure want cushions. You can be on your back. You can be on your side. And if lying still does not work for you, you can just gently move and roll your legs and flow in whatever way feels best to you. And we will do that for another 5 minutes. Well, actually 4 minutes. If it is your intention to use this opportunity to just drift off to sleep, then ignore everything that comes next and just stay cozy under your blanket. If you need to get up and carry on with your day or your evening, start to just move a little bit. Move your fingers, move your toes, move your hands, move your feet and your ankles. Roll your shoulders, move your shoulder blades on your ribs. Let your head tip from side to side. Move your hips and your knees and bring yourself back into connection with your moving body. And then keeping your eyes closed, sit yourself up. Get yourself planted. Feel the weight of your body and your sit bones settling into the floor. Open your eyes. Come back into your space. And thank you so much for coming to spend some time with me. And as always, if you're watching the recording later and you have questions, shoot me an email and I'm happy to help you sort things out. Oh, I just lost my focus. I'm going to turn the recording off so that we can chat.
That was lovely.